I feel privileged and honored to serve as the dean here at this community, and we are committed to making the third decade of CIHS the most prosperous decade that we've had as a school. We're starting this fall quarter with 10 new students, so I'm really excited about that, and I know that all of you will welcome them. I also want to welcome from Japan Dr. Motoyama's son, Dr. Kazuhiro Motoyama, and his wife, Mrs. Motoyama. Yes, thank you for coming. And Mr. Kashiwakura from Japan, he is our board member. I want to welcome him as well. And Mr. Kawano, who is a lifelong friend of Dr. Motoyama, who lives in Los Angeles, but he's from Japan as well. And where's Hideki and Tomiko? Where's Tomiko? Okay, come in, yeah. And I'd love everyone to thank Hideki and Tomiko, who give them. Because without their help, there would be no event. Nothing would happen. And I'm indebted to their help because I could not be present for the students the way I am if it weren't for them. And you know, I didn't want to script what I wanted to say because I'm just so privileged and honored as an alum to be able to serve this community in this time of cultural consciousness and the shift toward growth. And I just feel so honored to be a part of this movement in education, in the professional world, in thinking and being part of a forward-thinking group of people. No one can call us boring, that's for sure. So we're a very tight-knit group of learners here, and there's a reason why those of us return. So I just want to, hi, Dr. Kawano. I just want to thank faculty who are here who had an instrumental role in my being an independent thinker, and that is Dr. Sarah Dubin-Vaughn. I want to welcome her. She was here 15 years ago. I'm so glad you're here. 20 years ago, Dr. Rick Jelusich and Dr. Thomas Brophy, who I'm now going to introduce. Dr. Brophy has a Ph.D. in physics from the University of Colorado Boulder. He served as dean here from 1997 to 2000, and we are just thrilled to have him back as the Integral Sciences consultant. And we complement each other's strengths and hopefully our weaknesses, and together we're just super excited to help usher in the new age for the school where we're growing and becoming not unconventional, but part of the mainstream so everybody can speak the language of holistic thought and consciousness. So with that, I'm going to give it to Dr. Brophy.
Okay, thanks very much, Hope, for a wonderful introduction. So I also want to welcome board members of CIHS and faculty and students and staff and especially community members who are here. And I want to say happy 20th anniversary to CIHS. Happy birthday. And by way of congratulations to CIHS, what I'd like to do is list a few of the things that I love about CIHS. When Dr. Motoyama founded CIHS 20 years ago now, he articulated his vision in the form of the mission of the Institute and the principles that it shall follow. As you can see in any CIHS catalog or on the lovely plaque out front are the principles. And the timing of that articulation 20 years ago by Dr. Motoyama, which was brewing for another 20 years before that, is significant, I think. Because it is since only about 15 years ago, really, that a newly integral paradigm of being in the world has started to take hold in our culture, in the world, at what we think is the leading edge of social cultural evolution. Actually, rather than take hold, we should probably say this newly integral paradigm started to establish a foothold, or a toehold perhaps, but started nonetheless. And as I was reviewing the mission and principles set forth by Dr. Motoyama, I realized that what he was doing with those principles was to articulate the structure of that new integral paradigm that indeed started to take hold in the world several years later. So if I could explain in just a few words as to how 7 of those principles do so, I think. So, 1, to promote a society which enhances the integration of science and religion. The integral worldview does exactly that, enhances both science and religion. The outer material aspect of science and the inner spiritual aspect of religion. That is, religion in general, inclusive sense. That which deals with the realities of the inner spiritual aspect of being. Second principle articulated by Dr. Motoyama, to understand human existence from the total perspective of body, mind, and spirit. The integral worldview encompasses a nested holarchy of being with gradations or levels of being, as succinctly articulated by Dr. Motoyama: body, mind, spirit. Another principle, to establish guiding principles for the citizens of the global society. The integral view is planetary based. It's inclusive, not exclusive. It's inclusive of all faiths, all ethnicities. It's global, and in such a manner as to help guide our citizenship. Another principle, to elucidate the mechanism of the correlation between mind and body, and to actualize mental control over body and matter with a resulting better life. As to elucidate this, because once the profound certainty of the integral nature of reality is experienced, a better life does result. Next principle, to systematize scientific and objective meditational practices which will promote spiritual growth. Now again, the integral view brings the methods of science normally applied to the outer material aspect of reality, also those methods brought to the inner spiritual aspect of reality as well. Next principle, to establish a creative science which researches the mind and soul as well as matter. Here, Dr. Motoyama brings the operations of the inner spiritual aspect of being, that is, creativity, to the development of the outer material aspect as well. And the 7th principle, to establish a society which satisfies both the individuality, freedom and rights, and sociality, morality and coexistence of human existence. So, and here again, Dr. Motoyama completes for us the structure of the integral worldview, emphasizing both individuality and sociality, the other major dimensions of the integral paradigm, which together with the inner spiritual aspect and the outer material aspect of make up the 4 quadrants of being in which the nested or developmental evolutionary journey proceeds. So, as I was reviewing those principles articulated 30, 40 years ago by Dr. Motoyama and then established 20 years ago as the principles for CIHS, it was surprising that they actually are starting to take hold in the world, I think. And that's what I want to congratulate CIHS about. And welcome everybody again, and say happy birthday to the CIHS community.
Good morning, everybody. I guess we're getting close to noon, so it might be afternoon sometime soon. But I just want to thank the board and administration and the teachers and students and all the community affiliates for their participation in today's event. It's a really special day, and I think it's important for us to take a little time to kind of recognize that. But with that, I just want to introduce myself. Again, my name is Nick Bustos, and I'm currently a student here at CIHS, and I'm working on a doctorate in clinical psychology with an emphasis in integral psychology. And it really is my privilege to talk with you a little bit about the virtues of getting an education here. I have a master's degree from the University of San Francisco in counseling psychology, and I'm currently a therapist intern, and I'm working on my hours towards licensure. I chose to pursue a doctorate simply because when I was done with my master's, I knew that I wasn't done with school yet, that there was still kind of more to go. But it's funny because I'll give you a bit of my background. My previous attitude towards school in high school and in college as an undergraduate was I kind of had a kind of a frenemy approach to my my relationship kind of with school. Like I knew it was something that had to be done. I really loved learning, but I really had a hard time kind of taking in what the establishments were kind of wanting to teach me. So I did everything I could in those years to do as little work as possible while maintaining like good and decent grades. So it was kind of there was a tension there, of course. But I guess the truth of the matter was that I was looking for something else, something deeper, something that really meant something, that went beyond kind of what I thought were like the petty norms of the world. And of course some of this is kind of young person idealism, but I think there was something else that was really kind of speaking to my heart, and that I knew that there was something more. So to make a long, really boring story short, we'll kind of fast forward a few years, and I was in my mid-20s, and I finally had hit a kind of a breaking point. So like essentially what happened was that I came into contact with a dimension in myself that had until that point been hidden. I guess you can call it something of a conversion experience, as different kind of writers and mystical people talk about, where basically your life and like the way you think, your entire worldview kind of radically changes as a result of an inner kind of breaking through. And then right after that came like what I call the thirst, and I think a lot of people might know what I'm talking about, or hunger. Well, it has something to do with your stomach and appetite. But what it was is it was essentially a thirst for knowledge and information that had kind of hit me in a way that I'd never really experienced before. I read and read and read and read and read and read and read. I meditated. I looked for spiritual counsel. Started practicing yoga. Started doing all this stuff, trying to like expand myself. It was just something had just kind of been sparked in me. But really, most importantly, kind of during that time, I realized that I really liked talking with people, and I had a natural skill in kind of helping them. So I decided to become a therapist, which kind of brings me now to the present. I never ever would have thought that I'd be on a path toward becoming a scholar and clinical therapist, but and that like this would be the way that I'm spending my 30s or the beginning part. But it's good, and I'm happy, and so that's me. But to speak about CIHS now, one of the important things one of the things that's most impressed me about the school, like aside from like the helpfulness of Hope and all the administration who are really there when I need them. I mean, it's wonderful relationships. But aside from that, what really impresses me is the student body. And it's here that I think that the school really establishes its integrity as an institution for higher education. It's been wonderful to see that in all my classes so far, the students are in one way or another true seekers. They embody the spirit of folks on a sincere quest for knowledge and enlightenment. My classmates have totally blown me away with their genuineness and their intelligence and their level of insight and their wealth of experiences that they bring to all the coursework. I like to think of them, and it seems obvious that they're very much devotees on life's path. They're very eager to learn more, to push their own boundaries beyond the limits of what's possible, to explore worlds that at this point, in many circles, may be kind of unknown, but that until recently have begun to surface in the realm of contemporary science and scholarship. It's difficult to explain this drive that students have, this kind of vibe, I guess, for lack of a better word, that I see in the students, in the personnel here. This kind of motivation towards the attainment of knowledge that is kind of might be labeled as esoteric or woo-woo. But from what I've seen in others, and as well as from my own experiences, this drive comes from within. It's internal. It goes beyond the intellect, it goes beyond the world's natural laws and beyond the five senses. And really it seems to originate from beyond ourselves, as we generally know ourselves to be. And whether students have come to this place through meditation or mystical experiences or encounters with healers, or simply because they're just curious and because it makes more sense that, that our world and our psyches are made up of more than meets the eye, students here arrive with the understanding that the subtle realms are worth exploring seriously. And then here, CIHS essentially becomes a home where it kind of fosters these intuitive understandings that their students have. So in that sense, CIHS is both an academic space, it's an intellectual space, but it's also a sacred space. It's a space for the mind, it's a space for the heart. And so like the premises under which the school was founded, I really made the choice for me to complete my education here a total no-brainer. And I know that other students feel the same. But I must also stress that it's not a place built for hand-holding people who want to sing Kumbaya all the time. It's really a place for serious academic development and kind of inquiry. And I think it really attests to the school's mission of promoting and establishing alternative ways of looking at the world in a scholarly and dignified fashion. It's rigorous. I can speak for that, personally. My wife, who's sitting right here, would also tell you that I spent, a lot of time reading and writing. In fact, I counted. And in the past year, I've written nearly 150 pages of material relevant to class. I've read probably 30 or 35 books. I spent a lot of other hours researching and kind of editing, participating in class discussion, thinking and dot connecting. In many ways, and I'll put it kind of bluntly, it's been one of the most academically intense, but at the same time, academically rewarding years of my life. CIHS welcomes the wealth of transformative experiences that students may have had, while at the same time honing and shaping our scholastic abilities so that we can learn to give an objective scientific voice to that which is first and initially subjective and impersonal. And I think for an educational establishment to be able to do that is no small achievement. And I think the professors and all the people who kind of contribute to the student's educational life have to be really kind of patted on the back nicely, So if you see them, you just pat them on the back. Yeah. But also here, I think that the tireless efforts of Dr. Motoyama, the school's founder, as well as the administrators and the executive board and the teachers, it must be mentioned further. To successfully run a school that goes contrary to mainstream or to the values of mainstream academia takes leadership, courage, dedication, and perhaps most of all, strength of vision to be able to see the forest through the trees and also like the surrounding landscape that encompasses the, the forest. And I think our hearts, when we're here at this place, they kind of rest easy. So the wonderful value of CIHS lies not only with the fact that the school strives to impart knowledge and information that is usually unheard and not seen in mainstream educational circles, but at the same time, and this is very important, it seeks to put us in a position where we can better understand ourselves in relation to what we're learning, so that the gap between knower and what is known, between the perceiver and perceived, basically between me and you, that gap, that distance starts to shrink. And so we can see ourselves in communion in our work, in our life, in our learning, in our relationships, in the community at large. It's essentially a transformative, integrative education. So we learn facts and all the information, kind of everything that kind of goes along with that. Stuff that's important, that's practical, and that's relevant. Yet it couples the acquisition of this knowledge with the intention of helping students synthesize it within their internal constitutions, to embrace it with both the mind and the heart. It's truly an integrative vision. And with this, we embrace our communities as harbingers of integrity and healing. To sum up, with this vision of integration and synthesis set forth by Dr. Motoyama and upheld by the board of directors and the leadership at CIHS, students can be comfortable and rest easy amid all their assignments and their papers and projects, really knowing that the educational vessel that they're sailing on is truly in good hands and is being steered toward new, amazing, grand, lovely vistas of science and progress in the name of humanity and healing. Thank you.
Glad you're all here, and it's an honor and privilege to be here today. Thanks to Hideki and Tomiko. Hideki called and asked if I would, or emailed me if I'd say a few things today as an alumni, and he said just take a few minutes, and I thought that's perfect because after a few minutes I start making things up. So, and I think that's part of it. As an alumni, I can stand here now and actually share the fact that I had fun here as a student, and I've had fun here as a faculty member. And what that meant to me was, I may have heard Dr. Motoyama, maybe one of his first lectures 20 years ago. Someone brought me to that. I was becoming very interested in holistic medicine, and as Hope said, I had a background as a conventional pharmacist, but there just didn't seem to be enough there for me to move forward in my life and in my career, and I was in doubt as to whether or not I wanted to continue that direction. And so, at first I was curious about what Dr. Motoyama had to say. I'm from the Midwest, and things were different, and it seemed to be connected to maybe where I wanted to go. And I became more and more curious over a period of time, and I did. I came and took classes, believe it or not, for fun. And eventually, I was approached with the fact that I'd accumulated enough hours that I should consider, moving into the doctorate program. And I accepted that responsibility, and it just brought me deeper into the community of the student population. And it's so wonderful to hear a student like Nick up here, and a good student, because I don't always know if I could qualify as I didn't read 150 books. I thought I read 150 books, but I didn't. Yeah, I'm just kidding. So I learned about the AMI. I was determined to stay here till I understood how it worked. And I'm going to say I know how to use it. I still don't know how it works, but it got me all the way to the point of graduation, and I did my experiment and my dissertation using it, and I applied that to my career. And at that time, I was creating also a community in my career. And you know, as they normally say, when you graduate and you go to a conventional university, which I do occasionally go to the pharmacy graduation here at UCSD just to see what the student body's like. And, you know, their biggest concern is always, am I going to get a job? And I already had a job, so now I could explore other ways of expanding that role and the capacity. And it was interfacing me with conventional medicine, trying to hold a ground in a consciousness that's needed in medicine in the United States today, and just gave me the courage to communicate what was already known and what we already know to, you know, a very staunch system of treating people in a certain way for certain conditions and certain diseases. And I had the confidence in the community to allow me to continue to do that and still do it, and in a creative way that expresses me through the education I got here, and the satisfaction of knowing that there are other people who are doing the same thing. And there were people here when I got here that were, you know, leading the path, and there will be people as we all move on, because there's more of a solid feeling today than I've had in visiting here over the last several years for events like this, to realize that it's alive and well here. So thank you all for being here.
I'm honored to be here today, and I'm so glad that you're all here too. So I thought that I would direct my comments today to new directions in integrative sciences, since this is a graduation ceremony, and obviously our focus today is on where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. So where we've been. You know, it's interesting that in life and on this planet that things often move in kind of a cyclical fashion. And so if we look to ancient history, we find that there was actually quite a lot of evidence that what you and I might call complementary and alternative medicine or integral studies was actually kind of commonplace or the norm. So in ancient history, we find examples of using herbs for medicine or using plant medicine, using Ayurvedic type of techniques, using ideas to balance subtle energies, acupressure, and to go to your local shaman, for example, and to have a spiritual healing. These things were all just kind of commonplace in what you did. So as time went on, obviously, we kind of moved away from that, especially in the Western world. And with the birth of modernity, we had to kind of rebirth how we thought about these types of things, how we thought about medicine and how we thought about psychology. In the field of psychology especially, Freud, as you know, was the father of modern psychology, and so he invented or came up with this newfangled method of psychotherapy. And well, that's all very good because psychotherapy is a great way to really develop deep insights into the psyche and to the unconscious and to figure out really what's going on in that pretty little noggin of yours. One of the criticisms of it is that the psychotherapeutic model takes a long time. It's not uncommon for people to be in analysis for up to 20 years or more. So really that kind of set the paradigm. So obviously things progressed from there, and then we got more into the humanistic model, which has two tenets. I apologize if you all already know this, but it bears my point, I promise. So the humanistic model with the two tenets, that all humans are inherently good. There is no such thing as a bad person. People sometimes do bad things, but really they're just doing them because they're trying to get their needs met in a fundamental and profound way. And also that all humans crave growth. And I think that that says something about humanity in general as well as in humans individually, that obviously we are on this path of seeking. We do crave development in meaningful ways where we are truly developing our not only our potentials as humans, but to actually achieve those potentials, in such a way where we are able to develop our EQ, if you will, our emotional intelligence, and to really accomplish much more than we ever thought that maybe we could. So where we are now, the current paradigm in psychology, it really, and in integral studies, actually has kind of a two-pronged or a two-part type of approach. The more mainstream side is really much more these days in the cognitive behavioral side, the CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy type side. And cognitive behavioral therapy is basically this idea of let's look at cognitions, let's look at thinkings, let's look at your thoughts, your thought patterns, your beliefs, your assumptions about the world, and then let's challenge those to make them actually work better. So that when you find yourself behaving in a way that doesn't serve you, that you can actually choose a new thought or a new thought pattern or a new belief. And this is all great. Please don't misunderstand me. I really do think that CBT, is a wonderfully legitimate method. However, I would submit for consideration one criticism, and that is that it really doesn't affect the subtle energies of the body in a very quick way. And a further criticism is that when people are in a super state of distress, so when they're dysregulating or they're very, very anxious, something along those lines, that the CBT method really holds that you just simply sit with the anxiety or sit with the distress. And frankly, that can actually set the tolerance for disassociation, which I don't think, in my personal and professional opinion, is a good thing. So where are we going with all of this? What's the other side? Like I mentioned, the two-prong. The other side is integrative sciences. And here's the thing. Again, things are cyclical in this world. And so we are coming back to these more integral and integrated type of sciences. And so integrative medicine, integrative psychology, integral studies, this is the other side that I'm talking about. And we are really coming back to our roots in that, but in a more fully developed way. Again, we're using that humanistic, type of model that we're really developing this. So significant changes in paradigm are frequently met with derision. Finally, it makes it into neutrality. And then at the end, finally, acceptance. And so my vision of the future is that integral studies and integrative sciences will become the norm, that they will become accepted. And I think that that's what we're doing here. I think that we are acting as pioneers to actually bring these things into the norm so that they can be accepted. So currently, 38% of adults in the United States are using complementary and alternative medicine practices. I think that it's reasonable to expect that in the future, probably in the near future, that number will grow significantly. And frankly, I'm excited about this. I think that we now know so much about subtle energies. And obviously there's a lot more to learn. I'm not saying that we really have got it down pat. But I am saying that we really kind of got a good basis of understanding to begin with now. And that's very, very exciting. And so in the future, my vision is that we will have systems, political systems, financial systems, medicine systems, that actually allow for the inputs to go into those systems that are the intentions to improve the human condition, that we can have the throughputs that move through the system, where we are mindful of the resource costs, but we balance that with healthy, well-functioning humans with those costs of providing tools and services in such a way that we can have the outputs of mental and physical health systems that support human life and the pursuit of human development. And the way that I see that this is going to happen is through integrative sciences and integral studies. We now know how to change subtle energies so that we can actually help people to heal in significant ways. We now know how to help people to overcome their irrational fears, to overcome limiting beliefs, to overcome limiting identities, and to achieve true human potential. And I am very excited to be a part of this, and I'm excited to have you be a part of it too. So thank you so much.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been 20 years since CIHS has been organized. Congratulations. And congratulations also to those who graduated this year. And I'm sorry to say, I cannot see Dr. Motoyama and Mrs. Motoyama here today, because an occasion like this, he is always here, and I always see them. I'd like to start my speech with a story about the wife of a young couple. I think it was some time ago, before CIHS was started. Dr. Motoyama was coming to downtown Los Angeles to stay at Hilton Hotel. I went to see him, but he hasn't arrived yet. In the waiting room, there was a young couple. Of course, I did not know them. Later, when I met Dr. and Mrs. Motoyama, Mrs. Motoyama told me that the young couple came from Canada to the hotel to thank Dr. Motoyama. Why thank? She told me the reason. The wife of this young couple happened to catch a strange disease. She went to see the doctor and then to the hospital, but it didn't do any good. The disease was strange. Mrs. Motoyama told me that somehow she got the Dr. Motoyama's phone number and called him and asked him for help. Dr. Motoyama told her that never before he ever prayed for someone without seeing the person. Maybe he does that nowadays, but a long time ago. Not seeing them in front of you. Especially, she is calling from Canada. Halfway around the world. But he said to her, he will try. So face toward Tokyo, where he is, and pray for 1 hour, and after 1 hour, call him. Well, that's what she did. When the time was about to hit 1 hour, all of a sudden, she regained her conscience. She noticed that the disease was gone. She called Dr. Motoyama right away and thanked him. Probably you can tell how happy she was at the hotel to meet Dr. Motoyama face to face for the first time. Dr. Motoyama has given a lot of help to solve the problems, to solve the people's problems. I'd like to talk about one more patient who suffered from anorexia, which rejects to take foods. Without eating, you lose your life. The president of Tokyo University's hospital had a daughter who suffered from this sickness. The president himself is a doctor and tried to cure her daughter, but it didn't work. And another doctor from Keio University was asked for help, and it did not work either. So, in the last resort, the patient's mother called Dr. Motoyama for help. Dr. Motoyama said he will try 2 methods. He tried the first, and it did not work. So he tried the second and the last method. Which he did was that he let the patient's soul out of her body, place his soul in her body, and within her body, he sent the power to the system and prayed to the God. Dr. Motoyama told the patient's mother to pray while he was performing the second method. Eventually, it worked. After the patients recovered, she and her mother went to thank Dr. Motoyama. I was amazed to find out, of course, that was great too, that a friend of mine has such a superpower to temporarily replace the soul and perform such a great work. Well, at present, Dr. Motoyama is working to build a global society, a society where all the people on earth will help each other with a warm heart and live together happily. But in the world, there are some powerful and influential religions trying to become the world's religions. So Dr. Motoyama may have to work with the leaders of those religions and help them. Also, when you look at this nature, you can see the nature is causing a lot of damages all over the world. You know, tsunami and those earthquakes, floods, so. We cannot live happily with all these damages. There is no doubt we should have a warm heart toward the nature also. But I think Dr. Motoyama has some good ideas to handle this situation. So let all of us pray for Dr. Motoyama's success. Thank you very much.
I want to thank Dr. Kawano, or Mr. Kawano rather, for his great words about Dr. Motoyama. Okay, everybody take a deep breath. Breath in, breath out. One more, breath in, breath out. Sometimes when there's a lot of speaking going on, we kind of wander off a little bit. I also want to thank you, Nick, for your wonderful speech. It was so all-inclusive, and also Dr. Dexter. Thank you for your reference to ancient civilizations. We're remembering a lot of what we forgot. It's really neat to see 60 such bright lights in a room when I know that I moved here from Point Loma in April of 1992, intuitively, not knowing why I should live in Leucadia, a sleepy little beach town with the train running through, on Vulcan Avenue, and CIHS announced its beginning around August of 1992 through the reader. I think I saw an ad. And so I went to apply and was accepted, and Dr. Motoyama himself was doing the interview. And I didn't know him physically, and I said, I have no money and no job, but I want to go to your school. And so that started my process here at CIHS. 1993, Dr. Motoyama taught his first class here, and I was in that class, and he said, remember, one must always return the sauce. And I went, okay, he's going to say it again. I know he's going to say it again. He said, one must always return the sauce. He meant the source. The source. So any of you who've sat through one of Dr. Motoyama's lectures know you have to listen very carefully. And that began a wonderful journey for me. And I received my doctorate in '99, and as Dr. Umansky said, I began teaching here in 2004, became core faculty, Dean of Administration, Board of Directors. So Dr. Motoyama, in 1993, we were walking down the hallway, and he looks at me and he says, you get the Ph.D. and come back and teach. So I did, and it's been an amazing journey. And the premise of CIHS is the mind-body-spirit connection. And any of you who have ever studied any kind of metaphysics know that it is simultaneously the most beautiful, the most simple construct, or the beingness of who we are, while simultaneously being so very difficult, because how can you live in a oneness and be unique? That's impossible. And yet, that's exactly what we're finding out. As Dr. Dexter said, we know now scientifically that chakras exist. Dr. Motoyama invented the AMI to measure the meridians, which we now measure, and even be able to tell the level of awakening of different chakras. We know that one person can send power to another regardless of the distance, and that time and space really don't matter. So the spiritual development of you and I is extremely important, and to create an institute that uses the very science of the Western paradigm of empiricism and separation to show that there is no separation is groundbreaking. I know of no other institute, especially something that started in 1992, that does this kind of work. And part of the point is that if you choose to come here, and for instance, how many students do we have in the audience? Any students? Okay, and how many graduates? Wonderful. But to come here and to develop yourself spiritually is as important as developing yourself intellectually. Because Dr. Motoyama himself said that conceptual thinking and imagination are not awareness. They're not the same thing. So if you come to a place like this, my way of looking at the world is 95% of all communication is not verbal or physical, it's energy. That's who we really are, this consciousness, and that only 5% is what you see and what you hear. And when you come to a place like CIHS, whose inception was about unifying the mind, body, and spirit so that there is no difference, you're already sitting in that energy. The way I look at things is if you're even sitting in this room, it's because you are associating yourself with that state of being, that oneness, that desire to unify as above, so below, no difference. And as you aspire to awaken yourself spiritually and use your intellectual acumen, that 95% from you goes out everywhere into the global human community. So it has been an honor to serve in CIHS in whatever way I can, whether it's on the board or as faculty, and to be a part of this. And it is just so pleasing to see you here today. I hope you will spread the word through the community about CIHS. The CIHS is vital, that it's ongoing. You can see with Tomiko and Hideki and the staff here and Dr. Umansky, the progressive, positive energy that continues to go, and by Nick, one of our new students here, and his wonderful words of wisdom already. These are shining examples of the era in which we are supposed to know these things. As you know, or some of you may know, we're going into an era of time called Treta Yuga. It's an era in the cycle of time where we're supposed to become aware of the subtle energies of the universe. And in fact, we are here at CIHS. Did you know that in 1972 was when Dr. Motoyama had a vision to create CIHS, 20 years before it physically existed? And that he, in his heart and in his consciousness, cultivated that vision to become a physical reality in 1992. And here we are another 20 years hence, and look around the room. Imagine if each one of you lives to your spiritual and intellectual potential, what you can create in the world. I congratulate CIHS on its 20th anniversary, and I'm so glad you're here. Thank you, everybody.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for me. It is a great honor for me to be here today on this special occasion, celebrating CIHS 20th anniversary. As a board member, I thank all of the people here today attending this ceremony. As all of you know, that Dr. Motoyama founded this CIHS 20 years ago in 1992. What CIHS teaches is very unique, as it is clearly stated in its principles, such as the integration of science and religion, and seeing human existence from the total perspective of body, mind, and spirit. These principles and what Dr. Motoyama has been teaching were recently recognized by the Academy of Religious Studies in Japan. CIHS has graduated more than 100 students over the past 20 years, and today we have 4 new graduates this year. We are proud to have these 100 students globally working with our education, and this could not have happened without the support of all of you here today. I'd like to thank you, all members of CIHS, the board of directors, all the deans from the past and present, and faculty members and administrative staff. I would like to thank all CIHS students and alumni and their family members. I would like to thank all members of the CIHS community, all the universities, all the business enterprises, and the city of Encinitas, which has supported our efforts in these last 20 years. Thank you for all of you, because all of you support, understanding, and interest. CIHS has this ceremony today, the 20th anniversary ceremony. CIHS has grown as the city of Encinitas grown. CIHS is surrounded by totally different environment compared to that of 20 years ago. And I'm hoping in another 20 years from now, CIHS will be surrounded by the totally different environment compared to that of today. Because what we teach here is quite unique, we would like to ask all of you for your continued support, understanding, and interest for the next 20 years to come. I would like to thank all of you for your current support, and I would like to thank you in advance for your continued support in the future. Thank you very much.
From the bottom of my heart, I want to congratulate those graduating on the 20th anniversary of CIHS, and to congratulate the CIHS community as a whole on its 20th anniversary. I want you to take your knowledge and degrees to pursue leadership and work in this current world that is in need of a new paradise. Dr. Hiroshi Motoyama, President and founder of CIHS, states that the essence of human beings is the soul. He founded this graduate school and research center to study and investigate what the soul is from an interdisciplinary academic point of view. Then, what is the soul? Dr. Motoyama also says that human beings are multidimensional beings consisting of body, mind, and soul. The soul seems to them reside deep inside of the body and mind. We are required to think about what God is in order to investigate what the soul is. Dr. Motoyama explains God as the following. God transcends everything and supports the universe. At the same time, God resides in each of us and exists within us, even though God transcends everything. It is not simply a part of God that functions in us, but God lives within each of us as a totality. It is the soul that allows us to listen to the voice of God who is living in us. When we calm our body and mind, and the soul listens to God's whisper, what we catch is what we want to do. This is because God knows what you like the most and in what area you do your best. This is because God knows. It is your life which is different from anybody else. Also, if you do that, you are able to contribute to society because God knows what you are best capable of contributing to society. I believe that to live awakened to the soul is a natural way of life while living in the current society seeking a new paradigm. I truly wish that you contribute to society with what you deeply desire to do and live with great satisfaction in your own life. I congratulate again those who graduate today and the CIHS community. Thank you.
Okay, just quickly before I read Dr. Sato's address, tell a little bit story of an introduction of him for those who might not be familiar with him. As Hope mentioned, Dr. Sato was instrumental in CIHS actually happening since the founding of CIHS to today. He was always the chief financial officer or head of finances before there was such a position at CIHS. And in the Indigo way of looking at things, we always need great spiritual vision and partnering that with hardcore, rigorous, getting things done in the world on schedule. And that's what Dr. Sato always made sure happened at CIHS, especially within the financial budget. He was, I think, from a family that practiced the warrior tradition. If not, he should have been. When I first came here in 97, 98, for example, CIHS just moved into this building and was going through a lot of growth pains, and we were building that building across the way, and Dr. Sato was chief financial officer, and he was there in the office area, always on top of everything, and he made sure, for instance, we all punched a time clock card. Deans, everybody, including Dr. Sato himself. I think he even tried to get Dr. Motoyama to do it, but that one didn't happen. So It was, frankly, a little frightening first time meeting Dr. Sato at that time, but over the years I've gotten to know him as just a wonderful person who has really been practically as instrumental as Dr. Motoyama in making CIHS happen. And because of that warrior tradition, I want to make sure I give his speech correctly, this is on camera. Okay, here's Dr. Sato's address. From the bottom of my heart, I congratulate CIHS on its 20th anniversary. Dr. Hiroshi Motoyama founded this graduate school and research center in September 1992. 20 years have already passed since the opening ceremony in 1992 to celebrate the birth of the new graduate school with about 50 attendees, including 10 students at that time. The most important aspect of founding CIHS is its mission and principles, which are solely based upon Dr. Motoyama's philosophy. Dr. Motoyama has awakened to an inborn psychic ability. He is able to see and talk to spirits as a result of his religious practice in past lives. Dr. Motoyama began his spiritual practice as a young child, and he practiced yoga when he was an adult, which made him transcend to a higher spiritual dimension. He then became able to see and communicate with ordinary astral spirits, higher consciousness Karana spirit, and even God. In addition, as a head Shinto priest of Tamamitsu Shrine, he has experienced and communicated with more than a few thousand souls. Besides his work as head Shinto priest, Dr. Motoyama worked as a scientist and invented the AMI, apparatus of meridian identification, based upon his study of chakras through yoga and the meridian system of traditional Chinese medicine. The AMI and his invention promoted and led the study of subtle energy. Dr. Motoyama was eager to found a graduate school to promote and teach the fundamental aspects of human beings, including the subtle energy of the living body and human beings' souls, all based upon his experiences of encountering spirits and God. However, Dr. Motoyama's studies were not recognized in Japan, which attaches importance to more traditional academic ideas. Thus, his studies were not accepted to found a graduate school in Japan. The government of the state of California, on the other hand, recognized Dr. Motoyama's studies as a new emerging academic field and approved the founding and operations of the graduate school. Finally, in 1992, Dr. Motoyama founded the Graduate School and Research Center in California. I will repeat that of the utmost importance is the mission of CIHS, which is based on Dr. Motoyama's philosophy. I learned from Dr. Motoyama about his philosophy as follows. 1. The essence of human beings is a soul. Our body dies when the soul leaves. The soul of human beings does not become extinct, but continues carrying karma. 2. Only the souls of human beings survive as individual souls, and the soul spiritually evolves. This is true only of human beings. The souls of other living creatures go back to the group of souls to which they belong after their death. 3. Individual souls repeat having a physical body, meaning they reincarnate. The way to reincarnate depends upon individual karma, family karma, land karma, ethnic karma, national karma, and humankind karma. 4. The causes of karma are individual actions, emotions, and attachments, and the soul evolves to higher dimensions when we can cleanse our karma. Souls are able to evolve from the lower astral dimension to the higher astral dimension, and further to the truly highest dimension of Karana. 5. The souls become purified and cleansed as they evolve to higher dimensions, and they are less attached to mundane desires and emotions. 6. The souls in the truly higher dimensions of Karana possess love to harmonize the whole, wisdom to actualize harmony, and power to change the situation. Intuition from Karana observes, at the same time, both the realities of the physical world and those of the spiritual world, and is able to recreate them. 7. The souls of the physical world and the spiritual world relate through interconnection, function relatively, and evolve spiritually. 8. The souls of Karana have individuality, as do human beings, as well as the spiritual body. However, they are not born with a physical body to the physical world. 9. Above the Karana dimension is a dimension of Purusha, pure spirit, where there is no spiritual body for the soul, no human beings, and only the function of pure spirit. The soul in Purusha functions by realizing the will of God, the Creator. It works to purify karma between nationals and ethnic groups and actualize a peaceful global society. Moreover, it acts to make both human beings and nature live together. This is what I learned from Dr. Motoyama. Dr. Motoyama wishes to teach that our souls are able to evolve to the higher dimension filled with love, wisdom, and creative power. I myself also wish to actualize a peaceful global society and to achieve great harmony among human beings and nature. This is done through our soul evolution to the higher dimensions by awakening to the soul as our basis. In order to do so, I truly expect that CIHS will continue to be a center to educate people about the essence of human beings as a soul and its spiritual evolution. In closing, I would love to show sincere appreciation to those who have been supporting CIHS and wish to support us in the future as well. Masatsune Sato, Vice President Emeritus.
Being able to read Dr. Motoyama's address. He very much wanted to be here. He could not come, not because his health is poor, but just because he didn't have enough energy to fly here. So he wanted me to make sure, as every correspondence I get from him says, the first line, that the essence of human beings is the soul. He asks me every time, before you do anything else, you know, it doesn't matter if it's a government report, a bureau report, he says, Hope, make sure they know that the essence of human beings is the soul. So I wanted to introduce him with that. And he says it is important to live with this awareness because it is his vision, and that's what we need to hold forefront in our minds and our hearts to obtain a global society. So with that, I am going to read his speech, and I'm also going to read it because I don't want to make a mistake. So Dr. Motoyama congratulates all of the graduates, and he says, I really appreciate your presence for today's celebration of CIHS's 20th anniversary. It was 60 years ago when I first decided to found CIHS. The purpose of CIHS is to elucidate from various academic fields the truth that the essence of the human being is the soul, that our soul can evolve to the realm of God, and that the soul is given to humans from God. Through academic research and the study into the essence of human beings, I hoped that people around the world would gradually awaken to the essence of our being, which is the soul. I also wished to create a learning environment that would contribute to the emergence of a peaceful global society in the future through our efforts to work in cooperation with those people who share the same mindset, with the souls of human beings throughout the world and with the soul of the earth. The Institute for Religious Psychology in Japan was the first institution that I founded to actualize this purpose. I opened this research facility in a corner of the Tamamitsu Shrine in Japan in 1959. At this institute, I investigated and clarified the physiological characteristics and differences among three groups of people: spiritual people with definite and demonstrable psychic abilities, unstable people with moderate psychic ability, and ordinary people with no measurable psychic ability. Toward this end, I studied the subject's muscle movement, brain waves, and autonomic nervous system function using medical and physiological devices such as the EEG, ECG, respirometer, durometer, and plethysmograph. Using these instruments, my colleagues and I sought to verify the existence of the soul, which is not restricted by physical space-time limitations and which differs from our ordinary physical and brain functions that are restricted by physical space and time. In 1960 and again in 1962, this research got Dr. J.B. Rhine of Duke University's attention, and he invited me to work as a researcher in his parapsychology laboratory. When I had to go back to Japan, he offered me $5,000 as a research grant. In addition to that, he had sent me money that is equivalent to my salary at Duke University to be a researcher in his laboratory for a few years. I still really appreciate his generous offer. Because of this ongoing financial support from Dr. Rhine, I was able to proceed with my own research and invent the AMI, a device which allows us to measure acupuncture meridian function by monitoring the electrophysiological response of the skin. With the AMI, I work to elucidate the existence of the soul in new ways. For instance, by comparing the data of subjects engaged in ordinary modes of living, and such as thinking or seeing, with the data of subjects engaged in spiritual activities, such as perceiving extrasensory objects with their ESP or PK abilities. At the same time, I wrote many articles and books based upon the results of this research and upon the direct experience I acquired from my ascetic religious training. Many parapsychologists, neurophysiologists, and philosophers at major universities, as well as religious practitioners throughout the United States and Europe, understood through these works of mine that the human being is a multi-dimensional being consisting of body, mind, and spirit, and they offered to collaborate with my research. With the cooperation and help from these people, CIHS could finally be founded in 1992. At this reception today, I would really love to extend my heartfelt appreciation to all of these like-minded people who have cooperated with me over the years and who have thereby helped to establish CIHS. To those that are present today and to the many others who have collaborated with us over the years, I would like to express my sincere thanks. Without your effort and enthusiasm, it would not be possible for CIHS to be celebrating its 20th anniversary today. Recently, I gave a memorial lecture at the Motoyama Study Association in Japan, which was initiated by professors from universities in Japan, including the national universities, in order to deepen the study of my works. Through the course of many active discussions with them and with the other participants, I felt that they really understood that the essence of the human being is the soul, which is immortal. It has been a long trip for me over these last 60 years, but I can honestly say that the motivation that originally led me to this field is as strong today as it was when I first set out on this path 6 decades ago. I still wish to study, research, and discover more about the soul, which is our essence, about the essence of the soul, which is love. Through your cooperation and passion for this field, I am hopeful that this wish will continue to grow and prosper. I am very regretful that I could not attend the 20th anniversary with you today, but again, I am deeply appreciative to all the people who so generously support CIHS. It is through your efforts that we are able to celebrate our 20th anniversary today, and I wish from the bottom of my heart that all of you will continue to work together to make CIHS a great institution where students can study and research the essence of human beings and contribute to the actualization of a peaceful global society in the future. So with that, I'm going to close today. I want to thank you all again for coming. When I came here in 1997 by accident, because this little school in Del Mar closed, I had no idea that I would be entering my 3rd year here working, and it has just been such an honor to become part of the school and to help usher it into this new age. So with all the new students, prospective students, current, alum, faculty, and all of your support, I couldn't do it without everybody here giving me the support, emotional, writing me emails, all of it. So thank you very much. don't go. I want to do a group picture together. I want to congratulate the school, and we're going to do it inside because it's better. The photographers want to do it inside, and then please stay for lunch and cake. So thank you again for coming. Thank you.